the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to John.
Glory to you, Lord Christ.
In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to what it was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood or the will of the flesh or of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and lived among us. And we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. John testified to him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, he who comes after me ranks ahead of me because he was before me." From his fullness we have received grace upon grace. The law indeed was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God. It is God, the only Son, who is close to the Father's heart, who has made him known. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
John's Gospel begins with those words that should immediately take us to Genesis. In the beginning was the Word. And he uses the word in that Greek sense of logos, which is the beginning of all things. And in that word, which we know to be Jesus, he claims that Jesus is there from the beginning and will be for all time. He claims for us that we are children of God because Jesus has come to give us that life. In all the Gospels, there's one word that runs throughout, and that is light. The light has come into the world, and the darkness did not overcome it. Each of the Gospels has light as a theme in Jesus' birth. And all four of them are telling the same story, but they tell it from their own perspective, from their own experience. They tell it because this is the way the story was told to them. Matthew and Luke have those Bethlehem scenes, and Mark just jumps right on in to ministry, and John has the cosmos, has us understanding that there is nothing that was not made by God, there is nothing that is not God's indwelling spirit giving it life, giving it light as our gospel, as our collect prayed, light that enlivens our lives and that might give light to the world around us. This morning on this first week of Christmas, as we celebrate the Incarnation, we are reminded really that things are messy. The stable was messy. It wasn't, pure. It wasn't a nice linen bed. It wasn't surrounded by, midwives and caretakers and people to clean up the mess after birth. No, it was a messy, messy thing. And in the midst of straw and dung and, whatever is in the barn, that was where the birth took place. So Even in the beginning, Jesus is pointing out, God is pointing out to us that there is nothing on this earth that is not holy. The only way things are not holy is because of the way we see things. And there's a lot of seeing today in the Christian church that is extremely judgmental, that sees unholiness all around us and throws stones at those things, that condemns those things or those people. And yet, from the beginning, in the beginning, God created, and it was good. And it was good. And in Genesis, when we get created human beings, it is very good. There is nothing in this world that is unholy except because of the way we see it. And if we see with God's eyes, then we see that all has been redeemed. All has been made holy because God indwells all of creation and shines forth in all of creation. It just takes us to see it. So we celebrate this season of light. We celebrate this gift of the incarnate Word. The Word became flesh and set a tent among us. It says lives among us. But a truer translation is pitched a tent among us. And that's supposed to remind us too of the children of Israel wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. They pitched tents. They had no home. Which is why they're reminded in Deuteronomy to welcome the stranger, because they were wandering Arameans and had no home themselves. So the stranger is holy because it reminds us that we once were wandering Arameans. We were without homes until God chose to give us one in his heart. Until we chose to see that home and enter into it. And when we see it, that our home is truly the heart of God, then we know our home is filled with everyone else on the planet. That there is no separation. That we all belong, and we belong to each other. And this light that has come into the world, that has given us light, we are to shine forth, as our colleague prayed, in our lives, so that those who dwell in darkness, those who feel they have no hope, those who feel they are excluded, those who feel that they are downtrodden, those who are ill and need support and love, might see by our words and, more importantly, our actions, that they matter. That they matter and they are valued children of God as we are. And together, may we bring this world together in God's peace, as God wills this for us. May it be so.